So our original inequality is -10 is less than or equal, or sorry, not equal, less than 4. When I add 3 to both sides, this will become -10, 9, 8, 7. And when I add 3 to 4, 4, 5, 6, 7, becomes a positive 7. Is -7 less than 7? Is that true? Or is that false? True. So whenever I add a value to both sides, it is true. What if I subtract 7 from both sides? This would become -17 is less than. 4 minus 7 would be 4. -3 is -17 less than -3. True. What if I add 15 to both sides? -10 plus 15 becomes 5. What happens when I have 4 plus 15? What would that be? What was it? Yeah, 19. Is 5 less than 19? True. Add -10 to both sides. When I have a -10, that would make my left a -20. What happens when I put a -10, when I add that to 4? It's 4 and -10. -6 is -20 less than, oops, not n, less than -6. That is true. Multiply both sides by 10. -10 times 10 is -100. 4 times 10 is 40. Is -100 less than 40? True. Divide both sides by 2. All right. -5 divided by 2 is sorry, I said that wrong. -10 divided by 2 is -5. 4 divided by 2 is 2. Is -5 less than +2? That is true. Multiply both sides by -6. -6 times -10 makes a +60. -6 times a 4 makes -24. Is 60 less than -24? That would be false. Do you remember what the rule is when you multiply by a negative number? You have to flip the inequality sign. So in order to make it true, this inequality would have needed to be flipped, switched directions. What if I divide by -4? -10 divided by -4 would become a +2, 8, 9, 10, 2.5. And then 4 divided by -4 is -1. Is 2.5 less than -1? That would be false. What operations, when performed on an inequality, reverse the inequality? When we multiply or divide by a specific type of number. What type of number? Why was it okay to multiply and divide by 10 and 2, but when we multiplied and divided by -6 and -4, it didn't work? It's because they're negative numbers. That's why. When we multiply or divide by a negative number, so your homework on the first section that's solving inequalities, you'll be asked like one question. What happens when you add 3 to both sides? Is it true or false? And then you'll select it and explain why. It won't be a huge table. You'll just have one question. In the next section, we are going to solve literal equations that require more than one step. We are going to be moving the variables around to get one by itself. I'm going to rewrite and move this over so I have more room. In this first one, for A, it wants me to find the letter M. It wants M to be alone. My first step to get M by itself is I need to look around and see what is actually happening to M. How is M attached to the X? Multiplication. How is the M attached to the B? Through addition. I need to undo these. I'm going to start with the one that is not stuck to the M. I'm going to move the B first because it's off on its own. Move B by subtracting. Why would I subtract B? I would subtract because it says 2 has a plus. Has a plus on it, I'm going to do the opposite. That gives me y minus b equals mx. Now the m is so close. It is almost alone. How do I get that x to let go of the m and go to the other side? Divide it. Divide by, which one am I moving again? I'm moving the x away, so I need to divide by the x. So I have y minus b over x, which looks kind of weird, but it's fine, equals m alone, which is what I wanted. I wanted the m by itself. These ones tend to be the hardest ones when there's all letters. So if these are hard, don't panic over them. Sometimes we just have to see the repetition and it will get easier as you go. Okay, let's do this one. I'm going to pull it off to the side again so that I have more room. Sorry, it's a little messy. All right, in this one, this time I want to find x. My goal is to get x by itself. Anybody think they know what the first step will be? I'm gonna take a guess to get x by itself. Good. I have my x here. It's stuck on the m. The b is off to the side. I'm going to move the b first by subtracting b. That gives me y minus b is equal to mx. So close. I still need the x by itself. So my second step will be to divide by, I want x alone. I'm going to divide by the m. Let's see. All right, question C. I'm not going to move this one very far. I'm just going to slide it to the right so I can go down. This one asks me to get what letter by itself this time?
B.
B. All right. What is attached to B? There's no multiplication, right? There's nothing side by side, no multiplication. How is mx stuck on the b? Addition. It is stuck with mx through addition. So if I want to move the mx, I'm going to subtract mx from both sides. I'm just going to move that whole chunk over together, which would give me y minus mx equals b. Done. I don't have to divide because b didn't have anything being multiplied by it. See, I don't know if I have enough room. I guess I could try and write right under it. All right, our next one wants us to solve for x. My first step to get x by itself is I would want to move this 6 over to the other side. So I would minus 6. That would give me y minus 6 equals 7x. What is my last step to get x alone? Divide by 7. And this is why I didn't want to do everything. I always run out of room. My answer would be y minus 6 over 7 is equal to x. How do we feel so far? We're okay? All right. How many of you are panicking now that you see Q, a pi, and an H, all those things. Do you see any plus or minus signs? No? These ones are my favorite because they look scary, but they're actually not that bad. They want the letter H by itself. Actually, I'm going to use instead. In order to get H alone, do you see how all of these numbers are just in a straight line? That means they're all being multiplied by each other. To undo multiplication, we divide by what we don't want. So, when I look at this, what do I not want?
25.
I don't want the 25, and I do not want the pi. So, if I do that to one side, I have to do it to the other. Boom, that crosses out those, and H is alone now. I'm going to write it off to the side so it looks nice. Q is divided by 25 pi, and the H is now by itself. See how crazy it looks? But then it's really not that bad. Love those ones. They are nice. Question F. Solve for the letter X. Solve for X. So I want this one. I want that by itself. Maybe I'll pull this one over to the side as well. Now, some of you will be able to do these steps in your head, and be able to skip and not have to write it. Does anybody think they know what the first step on this equation would be to get X by itself?
Times 2. I mean, no.
Multiply is correct.
What's that?
How many of you hate fractions? I don't like fractions. I'm going to get rid of the fraction so I don't have to deal with it. How do I get rid of the 7? Multiply by 7. When I times by 7, this is what I'm saying some of you will just do in your head. You'll go from here and say, oh, if I get rid of 7, that means X plus 2Y should equal 28. Some of you will be quick like that by moving the 7 over. I like to show that I'm timesing by 7, times by 7, so I know where everything came from, but you don't have to do that if you don't want to. I'm still trying to get X by itself. How is 2Y connected to the X? Addition. So I will undo it by subtraction. Whoops, that looks weird. Subtract 2Y. So I would have X equals 28 minus the 2Y. Does anybody remember why I can't say that it's 26Y?
Because the y can't subtract the 20.
I can't combine them together because they don't have the same letter. So they have to stay separate. All right, next one. I'm just going to move it over here. On this one, it says I am looking for X. I want x by itself in the end. X is being multiplied by the 7, but it also has a 3y attached. I want to deal with this 3y first, because if I divide by 7, I'll have to divide with 3. It'll get messy. So I'm first just going to move this 3y away from the x. Subtract 3y. Seven x equals 6 minus 3y. Still trying to get x by itself, which means I will now divide by 7. X is 6 minus 3y over 7. Who thinks that they can do this last formula on their own? Anybody think they can do that on their own and get y by itself? Why don't you try it? See if you can get y by itself. All right, my y is being multiplied by 3, and it has a positive 7x on it. First, I want to move the 7x. When I move the 7x, it'll become a negative. It's the opposite sign. How many of you were able to get that step? Yeah? Oh, good job. Now the last one. My last step. Anybody want to share what they did for the last step? What did you do?
Divide by 3.
Good job. Divide by 3. See, it's kind of repetitive, huh? You just have to adjust your values. There's my y all by itself. These are the most difficult problems today that you'll see. All right, turn your page. We are going over x and y intercepts from a table and a graph. From the table, do you see zeros anywhere on the left table? There's a 0, 4, and there's a 2, 0. Now, most of us just have a hard time picking out which one's which. Who thinks they know which one is the x-intercept?
The first one.
It is not the first one. Which one has a number for x? Do you see how the 2 is in the x column? That is the x-intercept. 2, 0. Because it has the x. Then when I look at this 0, 4, Do you see how the 4 is in the y column? 4 is the y-intercept. Table on the right. Try and write down the x and y-intercept on your own, and then we will check them. Would anybody like to share the x-intercept from this right table? Yeah, what'd you get?
18,
18, 0 is correct. It's in the x column for the 18. 18, 0. And who would like to share the y-intercept from the table? Yeah, what'd you get?
0 and -6.
Good. 0, -6. Any questions on the table? Hopefully they're nice. Next one is a graph. You will notice that this graph is a little weird. That was my bad. Does anybody know why that graph looks weird? Why? It's backwards. I accidentally flipped the image when I was building these. So this is actually a 1. This is a +2. This is a +3. +4. I accidentally flipped it. So the numbers are reflected. When I find the x-intercept, I look at the x-axis. My x-intercept would be at 2, 0. When I look for my y-intercept, I look at the y-axis where it touches. My y-intercept is at 0. And then my y number should be 1, 2, -4. On the second graph, I did one that's a little bit more difficult. When I look for my x-intercept, it's not on a whole number. You would have to estimate. Anybody want to estimate this one? Between 1 and 2. You're estimating, so you really can't go wrong. Okay,
Oh,
I lied.
1.8.
It can't be 2 because it's not right on 2.
1.8.
1.8, all right. 1.8, right? It's close to 2, but it's not right on it. 0. On your homework, you can try rounding it to 2. I don't know what it will do, so we can test that out and see. The y-intercept is right here. At 0, down 5. The last 3 questions on your assignment are review from, I think, the first lesson. For this example, to solve for x, I would first subtract 2. And who knows my second step? We solve for x.
Divide by.
Divide by 5. Good. Divide by 5. That means that x is an 8. And that's what I would type in. I would just type an 8 in and submit. For question B, I want the x's to be together. So I'm going to first add 5x to both sides. Can you see how I don't have a bunch of room on my paper? I'm going to do 2 steps in one. So first I move the 5x over to the left. That means I would have to move my 1 over to the right. Does anybody know how I'd move this 1 over with the 144? I'd have to subtract 1. Oh, I hope I don't lose you by doing 2 steps. 1. This allows me to say 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13 x's. 1 minus 1 goes away, equals negative 5 plus 5 goes away. 144 minus 1 is 143. Then after I do that, those 2 steps in a line, I can now divide by 13. I think it's 11. I'll check. 143 divided by 13 is 11. Yep. Last one, when I see the parentheses, I'm going to distribute. That means I multiply in. Negative 10 times 5 is negative 50 x. Negative 10 times negative 6, some of you would put negative 60. That will mess up my equation right from the beginning. So if you enter your answer and it says it's wrong, check your signs. Negative 10 times 5 is negative 50, but negative 10 times a negative 6 would make it a positive. 2 negatives multiplied together make a positive. I have a plus 4 hanging out. 1 times x is 1x. 1 times 11 is 11 with a minus 49 hanging out at the end. Combine like terms. Don't change signs. So 60 plus 4 is 64. I have a 1x. 11 minus 49, that's negative 38. Once again, you can use your calculators. 60 plus 4 is 64. Then I would check 11 minus 49. I don't change the signs at all. It's negative 38. Now's the time to switch signs because I'm going to change sides. So I'm going to subtract the 1x so that it moves over to the left side. Once I move this x to the left, what do I move to the right? 64. So I'm going to add that into this step. So how do I move the 64?
Subtract.
That gives me negative 51 x. And let me show you on the calculator again in case you really struggle with adding them up. Negative 50 minus 1 is negative 51. 64 minus 64 is 0, so it goes away. 1 minus 1 goes away. Negative 38 minus 64 is negative 102. Then I divide by negative 51. Does anybody know what that equals when I divide a negative by negative? It's a positive 2. Good job. Those are the beasts. Those are the problems that are the hardest because they have distributing and they have numbers at the end that you have to combine.